6 months ago, I found out that I was diagnosed with cancer.
Tonight, we are remembering James Van Der Beek.
The Dawson's Creek star died today at the age of 48 after battling colorectal cancer.
2 days after James Van Der Beek died, his younger brother Jared sat down and tried to say something. He did not write about Dawson's Creek. He wrote about a bond between two brothers that had just been physically broken. He wrote that the pain in his heart was so deep he did not know a person could hurt that badly. Then he said something the rest of the world needs to hear. He said people loved James, not because of something he did, but because of who he was. Most of us never knew who he was. The morning everything stopped. On the morning of February 11th, 2026, at 6:44 a.m. in Travis County, Texas, a death was reported on a ranch beside a creek. The man was 48 years old. He had 6 children. The youngest was 4. His wife Kimberly posted the news from his Instagram account a short time later. She wrote that James David Van Der Beek passed peacefully and that he met his final days with courage, faith, and grace. She said there is much to share regarding his wishes, his love for humanity, and the sacredness of time. Then she asked for peaceful privacy. Within the hour, TTMZ broke the story. CNN confirmed it. And then something happened that tells you everything about what we have become. Then, the crying Dawson meme was everywhere. People shared it as a tribute. People shared it as a reaction. People shared it because that is the only version of James Van Der Beek they ever bothered to know. A 3-second clip of a man pretending to cry on a television show became the way millions of real people said goodbye to a real man who had actually just died. And nobody seemed to notice how strange that was. His brother, Jared, posted his tribute 2 days later. He shared photos of them as kids, photos with their sister Juliana, and photos with their parents. And then he wrote something that will stay with you if you let it. He was my person, the one I went to for any and all things. I have looked up to him since I was born. He has never failed to be there for me whenever I needed him. Think about that for a second. When the rest of the world saw James Van Der Beek, they saw Dawson Leary. They saw a meme. But when Jared saw his brother, he saw the person he called when life got hard. Jared wrote that it had been wonderful reading how James touched so many lives. But then he said something that quietly corrects everyone who reduced his brother to a character or a career. He said people loved James not because of something he did, but because of who he was. Because to understand why that should bother you, you have to understand who this man actually was before the world reduced him to 3 seconds of someone else's tears. The kid nobody saw coming. James David Van Der Beek was born on March 8, 1977, in a small Connecticut town called Cheshire. His father, James Sr., had once pitched minor league baseball for the Albuquerque Dukes, the AAA affiliate of the Los Angeles Dodgers, before becoming a telephone company executive. His mother, Melinda, had danced on Broadway and attended the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York. She later opened a gymnastics tumbling school in Cheshire that she ran for 27 years. James was the oldest of 3. His brother Jared came 2 years later. Their sister Juliana, 2 years after that. Here is something most people never knew. James was identified as dyslexic in kindergarten. The kid who would later deliver the most elaborate, word-heavy monologues in television history could barely read when he started school. But he overcame it. By 15, he was making 6-hour round trips from Connecticut to New York City to audition. His mother drove him every single time. She believed in him before anyone else on earth did. On his very first trip to Manhattan to find representation, he landed both an agent and a manager. That almost never happens. Then came a year and a half of rejection. Audition after audition, nothing sticking. At the age of 16, he was cast in the New York premiere of Edward Albee's Finding the Sun at the Signature Theater Company. The play was directed by Albee himself. He enrolled at Drew University in New Jersey on an academic scholarship studying English with a sociology minor. He made the dean's list. He sang in an a cappella group called 36 Madison Avenue. He was building a quiet, grounded, intellectual life. And then, in early 1997, he auditioned for a television pilot on the WB network about teenagers in a fictional Massachusetts town. The show was called Dawson's Creek. He got the lead. He dropped out of college. And nothing about his life was ever quiet again. The show that changed everything. Dawson's Creek premiered on January 20th, 1998, and the world was not ready for it. The pilot drew 6.8 million viewers and captured 41% of the female teen demographic on premiere night. The WB, a struggling network barely staying alive, suddenly had the hottest show in television. Before Dawson's Creek, their ad revenue was around $100 million a year. Within 2 years, it was over $500 million. The president of WB Entertainment would later say, without Dawson's Creek, the WB would not exist. That is not an exaggeration. That is what the man who ran the network said publicly. James was 20 years old, playing a 15-year-old named Dawson Leary in Wilmington, North Carolina. The cast was young and completely unprepared for what hit them. Katie Holmes was 18. Michelle Williams and Joshua Jackson were barely older. They were kids playing kids, and suddenly they were on the cover of every magazine in America. James and Katie attended the 1998 Emmy Awards together during their breakout first season. People magazine named him one of the 50 most beautiful people in the world. The show ran for 6 seasons and 128 episodes and launched an entire genre of teen television. Without Dawson's Creek, there is no Felicity, no One Tree Hill, no The OC, no Gossip Girl. Every emotionally aware teen drama that followed owes something to what Kevin Williamson created and what James brought to life. Years later, in an interview, James was honest about what those 6 years cost him. He said, "By the end of a 6-year run on a show, I was done. I needed a break. I swore I would never do it again." He gave everything to Dawson Leary, and Dawson Leary took everything right back, including one moment that would follow him to his grave. The tears that became a joke. In the season 3 episode True Love, Joey Potter chose Pacey over Dawson. The script called for disappointment, not tears. James told Vanity Fair that the crying was not scripted. It just happened in the moment. Something cracked open in him, and he let it show. A moment of pure, unguarded, genuine human emotion captured on camera. Around 2006, someone turned those 3 seconds into a GIF, then a meme, then one of the most shared reaction images in internet history. People used it when their team lost, when their pizza was late, when their favorite show got canceled. 3 seconds of a real person experiencing real heartbreak became shorthand for every minor inconvenience on the planet. James handled it with more grace than most people would. He partnered with Funny or Die in 2011 to create JamesVanderMemes.com with high-definition recreations. He laughed about it publicly. He once said, "It is hilarious to me that you can work for 6 years on a show and it all gets boiled down to 3 seconds." He was smiling when he said that. But read that sentence again slowly. 6 years of work, of growth, of friendships, of becoming the person he was. Reduced to 3 seconds, and he was expected to be grateful for the attention. After Dawson's Creek ended in 2003, James fought to escape the box. Varsity Blues had already made $54 million at the box office in 1999 and won him the MTV Movie Award for Breakthrough Male Performance. He took deliberately dark roles like The Rules of Attraction. He went back to off-Broadway. He wrote a screenplay that was never produced. But the industry that made billions from his face had quietly decided it was finished with him. NPR would later write that despite his success, Van Der Beek did not land many roles that rose to that same level of fame. That is a polite way of saying Hollywood moved on. So he did something remarkable. He stopped running from the joke and leaned into it. He played a fictionalized version of himself on Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23, a narcissistic actor still clinging to Dawson's Creek fame. He played a serial killer on Criminal Minds in an episode that aired after the Super Bowl. He co-created, wrote, produced, and starred in What Would Diplo Do on Viceland, which scored 90% on Rotten Tomatoes and was called the Veep of DJ culture. In an interview about that period, he said, "I just came here with a willingness to make a fool out of myself and not much else." He was not bitter. He was not angry at an industry that forgot him. He just kept showing up. While Hollywood was figuring out whether it still needed him, James was quietly building something more important. The life he built when nobody was watching. His first marriage to actress Heather McComb ended amicably in 2010. Then he met Kimberly Brook on a group trip to Israel in 2009. He told the story himself years later. He said he was sitting at a restaurant on the beach in Tel Aviv, telling a friend he was done being single, that he wanted a soulmate, someone to build a life with. Mid-sentence, a voice interrupted him. He was annoyed. He turned around. It was Kimberly. 3 days later, he asked what she was looking for in a relationship, and she said she was not interested in one. 6 months later, they were living together. 2 weeks after that, she was pregnant. They married on August 1st, 2010, at the Kabbalah Center in Tel Aviv. She was 7 months pregnant. They had 6 children together: Olivia, Joshua, Annabelle, Emilia, Gwendolyn, and Jeremiah. The youngest was born in October 2021. He was 4 years old when his father died, and between those 6 children, there were 5 that never made it. 5 miscarriages. 5. In November 2019, James was competing on Dancing with the Stars. He was one of the highest scorers all season and favored to win. Then, 48 hours before his semi-final performance, Kimberly lost their baby late in the pregnancy. The baby was a boy. He was due in April 2020. James went on live television anyway. 7 months later, Kimberly had another miscarriage at 17 weeks. She lost consciousness. James called 911. She needed blood transfusions at the hospital. He wrapped her in his Dancing with the Stars robe because it was the only thing he had. Then, in July 2020, his mother, Melinda, died. The woman who drove him to every audition. The woman who danced on Broadway. The woman who made the necklace he wore on Dawson's Creek. After she passed, he wrote something online that breaks you if you read it carefully. He said he was happy she was taking care of the 5 children we lost on the other side. He believed his mother was holding the babies they never got to hold. And the whole time all of this was happening, the world kept sharing his crying face to complain about slow Wi-Fi. 2 months after his mother died, the family left Los Angeles for a 36-acre ranch near Spicewood, Texas. And then came another devastating moment. The fight they stole from him. Then, in August 2023, on that Texas ranch where he had gone to heal, a doctor told him he had stage 3 colorectal cancer. He was 46, no family history. He was in excellent shape. He kept it secret for over a year while he went through surgery and chemotherapy. He had a plan to share his story through a People magazine cover on his own terms, in his own words, when he was ready. Then, on November 3rd, 2024, he found out a tabloid was going to publish his diagnosis without his consent. A stranger on the internet decided that James Van Der Beek's cancer belonged to them, not to him, not to his wife, not to his 6 children who were still processing what it meant. He posted about it the next morning. He wrote, "Nothing about this process has occurred on my preferred timeline." That single sentence carries the weight of everything wrong with how we consume other people's lives. A man with cancer and 6 children had to rush his own announcement because someone wanted clicks. To pay for treatment, he started selling his own memorabilia. The prom necklace from Dawson's Creek sold for over $26,000. A Varsity Blues hat went for nearly $5,000. He promoted the auction with the hashtag #CancerIceExpensive. He was not being clever. He was being honest. The man whose face built a network worth $500 million in advertising could not afford his own cancer treatment. In his final television interview with Craig Melvin from Today, filmed at his ranch in December 2025, he said something that sounds impossible unless you understand who he was by then. He said cancer was the best thing that ever happened to him. He said it forced him to be present. He said, "I feel much better than I did a couple of months ago. It has required more of me, more patience, more discipline, more strength than I knew I had." He talked about Kimberly. He said, "I would not be alive if it were not for my wife. She has stepped up as a caretaker, as a nurse, as head of the household." He called her an absolute saint. He said his older children told him, "Just be honest with us, we want to know." So he was. On his 48th birthday, March 8th, 2025, James posted a video on Instagram called "What Cancer Taught Me." He described the past year as the hardest of his life. He said cancer had stripped away every identity he had ever held. Father, husband, actor, provider, all of it gone. He sat alone in meditation and asked himself a question. If I am just a too skinny, weak guy alone in an apartment with cancer, what am I? The answer came to him quietly. He said, "I am worthy of God's love, simply because I exist. And if I am worthy of God's love, should I not also be worthy of my own?" He gave that revelation away for free. A man selling his own costumes to stay alive gave away the most valuable thing he had ever found, because he thought maybe it could help someone else. In that Today interview, he told Craig Melvin, "Before cancer, God was something I tried to fit in my life. After cancer, connection to God is the whole point of this exercise on this planet." Then he added, "If the word God trips you up, you can take the word God out, and your mantra can simply be, I am worthy of love, because you are." After he passed away, Katie Holmes shared a handwritten letter, not typed, remembering the days they breathed the same air in the land of make-believe on Dawson's Creek. She called his life a hero's journey. Sarah Michelle Gellar described his death as a loss to the world, ending her tribute with raw anger at cancer. Creator Kevin Williamson said he was at a loss for words for the actor behind Dawson Leary. In his final weeks, friends came to say goodbye. Alfonso Ribeiro said he felt broken. Emma Slater called him family. Stacy Keebler and Aaron Featherston shared tender final moments. He let them see the truth of his illness. Just 33 days before his death, friends helped him secure a ranch for his children. Afterward, a GoFundMe raised $2.6 million, including $25,000 from Steven Spielberg. He never saw it. The part that should not let you sleep. Here is the thing we cannot stop thinking about. His last name is Dutch, Van Der Beek. It means from the creek. The show that made him famous was called Dawson's Creek. The ranch where he died sits beside a creek feeding the Pedernales River. He was born from the creek. He became famous because of a creek, and he died beside one. Jared wrote one last thing in his tribute. He wrote, "James, I already miss your physical being and your words of wisdom over the phone. Yet I also feel your presence so strongly, and I know you will continue to guide me. Thank you for living your life with me. I love you." That is not a caption. That is not content. That is a younger brother talking to his dead older brother and hoping that somewhere, somehow, he can still hear him. James Van Der Beek died on February 11th, 2026. He was 48 years old. His youngest child was 4. And somewhere right now, someone is sharing the crying meme without knowing a single word of what you just heard. Tell us what part of this story stayed with you the longest. We want to hear it in the comments. And if something about this does not sit right with you, Do not scroll past that feeling. Sit with it. That is the point.